Hello everybody, it is Mike Levin on Monday, July 25th, 2022. And I'm at a really great point in my work. It's kind of this watershed moment. And I have actually achieved a lot of what I've set out to do, which is to get Linux terminal running under Windows subsystem for Linux. That was years ago, really. This next thing, containerization, because of LXD, is ready for prime time. It fits into the way I work. So to get containerization running under Windows subsystem for Linux happily, readily, easily, that's now done. And I can show you that by just doing my traditional process of firing up a terminal. And now I can go LXME, and you can just see the requester changes from heelless at Lundervand to Ubuntu at Glucking Lass. And that's down to that step there. And now I had to get it to the point where that container can access all my main local files and folders that I use on that parent level. Anything that I might use up at this level when I'm logged in like this, it needs to access all of this stuff. And it also needs to access my Windows stuff, right? So this is still Windows. And if I bring up an Explorer, this is still an area where I want to be able to surf into my GitHub repo. It's really held under my Windows home directory. And so I do linking, symbolic links, to get that around. But you'll see if I do an ls here, I'm actually inside that GitHub directory. That's the same directory as what you see here. If I clear that and cd ... and do an ls of what I have here, I have these three locations. GitHub, which gives me everything from elsewhere on this local system at full speed. That's very important. It gives me an isolated virtual environment instance of Python. So any work I'm doing in Python gets contained within this location. And then it gives me this interesting spot, which gets to that next point here. Make this Linux container able to access a network drive for data. Able to access a network drive for data. So this other location, GitHub, that it's accessing is not really a network drive. That's local, even though there's containerization going on. This is the GitHub that's in my Windows directory out here. This is my C users username /GitHub location, which you could see if I put my cursor in there. That I am mapping all over the place. So that's what you see here, but it's still local. This location here is different. Okay, so I have in my home what's called a local area network, or a NAS, and you can see the interface here for the NAS, and I have a number of data shares I set up, or just shared drives for internal on my network. One of them here is called data, and data lives in an interesting spot here. If you look at its network location, you get these double backslashes. That double backslash is Universal Name Network Protocol, UNP, or something like that. But it basically implies that the big Microsoft standards for networks are being used, either SMB for Samba or some sort of internet file system that's very popular. So these paths here are actually not being found on the local drive. You'll see the path into that is through network and then into echidnas. I kid you not. So that is a network drive location. I have mapped that network drive location into all these little virtual machines. It's not a virtual machine, it's a container. So if I go into data here, cd data, and do an ls, now you can see that because Ubuntu Glucking Lass, this is my container, my Linux container. This was that sort of goal of mine. So if I were to do applications that wrote into this network location, like new, sorry, my screen capture software gets in the way, new text document, and I call it foo foo.txt, and then I go over here and do an ls again. There is the foo.txt. I have access to the network drive via this Linux container. If I were to exit this Linux container, I would be in the host Linux system on this Windows machine, because you remember Windows and Linux are running side by side as equal level operating systems. The Windows is not the host. Windows might be a host to a number of things it's hosting, but its side-by-side kernel, Linux, is the host to LXD, this containerization system. So when I exited out from here, that requester switched from Ubuntu at Glückinglass to Heelus at Lunderwand. Okay, and if I were to ls there, I'm in GitHub, cd .. You would see a similar data location. So I could cd into data and ls there, and you can see that same foo.txt. Clear. And if I were to vim foo.txt and edit it by saying, I just typed this, and then save it from vim, exit out, go over here to Windows where that file is showing and double click it so it comes up in Notepad, I suppose. I just typed this. How's that for interoperable for you? So the purpose of this video, though, is to actually get to point number 5 here, which is, a very interesting one, because it takes everything that I've done local in my local container and reproduces this container minus the local elements. My big GitHub directory won't be able to be there, but I can pull down one Git repo at a time if I wanted to off of GitHub, but reproduce that container elsewhere on the network, meaning not my local laptop machine, not this machine that I'm sitting on. So what I'm going to do is go back to this software that controls my NAS, and I'm going to go into App Center. And under App Center, you'll see something called Container Station. This is a lot like a Kubernetes container management system, but for your own little personal network where you don't have to do quite the load balancing. And I can pull up, and you're going to see a warning come up. LXC end of support notification. Container Station version 3 or later is ending support of LXC containers. The application will cease support on the creation, modification, and utilization of LXC containers. So I believe one of mine is actually that. So this is part of what prompted me to do the video, because I'm going to be deleting this one that you can see is actually running. There's thunder and lightning out there. And I'm going to show you logging into that. I keep this icon here for logging into that, so I can give you a before and after. If I were to click that, boom, we're in there. See, this is that server. And to prove that it's that server, I will go over here and I'll hit stop. Stopping containers. Go over here. Process exited with that code. Now when things are full screen under Windows, you have to Windows tab and then hit the X there. That's something of a bug that Windows has to work out. But I am going to get rid of this warning entirely by deleting this whole container. Remove. See this? Are you sure you want to remove this container and their dependent containers? Yes. So now my one and only running container is actually removed. And including examples I might need to look at to get it running again, but I'm pretty sure I remember how it works pretty well. So here under Container Station, which I'll maximize to full screen because you don't need to be distracted by the other stuff. There's Overview, Create, Import, Export Logs, Preferences, Images, Volume, Container. So Images is where you grab images from out in the wild, and you can see this was a while ago that I grabbed this one, 9/21 of 2021. And we don't really need that anymore, so we are going to get rid of that image. And we're going to get a new image. We're going to get an Ubuntu 18.04, which that one probably was, but we're going to get a new 18.04 image. So let's see, how to run LXD containers, search image or ID version. So I believe we can maybe just go Ubuntu. See if that searches some big catalog. Nope. Okay. Pull from the cloud. Oh, okay. Interesting. LXD image server. Image name. This is just guessing. Oh no, we don't want to do it like that. All right, I didn't know what I was doing. Cancel. There's going to be one here which is just a bunch of pre-canned images. Volumes. Containers. Right, they're all empty right now. I need to grab a new image from out there in the cloud. Create is how you go in and get the list of all the big ones. Ubuntu. LXD image server. Bionic is the one we want, but we want Bionic. Oh, wait. Ubuntu Bionic. Oh, that's an AMD one. Recommended. Docker Hub. LXD image server. I guess that's it. AMD 64. It's just the flavor of 64-bit. But it is Bionic. This does seem like what I want. All right, so this is going to be, I'm going to call it Bionic. Auto start, fine. CPU limit, 100%. Memory limit, the max allowed on the slider. That's fine. All right. Oh, advanced settings. I think we do want advanced settings because I do care about this network stuff. I especially care about the networking context. We either make it look like it's just a bridge. See, no, I want NAT. And what are we going to be running on here? It's going to be mostly outbound services that are going to ask for requests. That's one of the beautiful things here. It can be on a its own virtual LAN, I believe. Yeah. Do I have to do port forwarding? To SSH into it, I certainly do have to do port forwarding. Yeah. Device, shared folders. All right, so we are going to create a port forwarding rule. We're going to add a port forwarding rule where requests that go on the host to port 2222 are forwarded to port 22. TCP. That should allow us to SSH into this box. That's the important thing. This box should have an identity on the network. Let's give it a host name. Echidnas, platypus, Perry. Although I would have thought Bionic would have been used for its host name, but maybe that has to do with the network context. Okay, so we now have an image, a container. We now have a container. I should have just created something somewhere in one of those. There it is. I knew I created one. And yeah. So how do we get into it? Well, first it's still just an image. It's not an actual container now. So I guess we go to container. Yeah, there we go. And it can be run from there. Now it can be actually just run, but then you're going to be facing an issue to get into it. So if you click on it here, you'll get actual direct terminal access. And we want to double check that it's running an SSH service, right? So one of the things we have to do on here is begin login. What is that? I guess Ubuntu. I heard stories of all right. Stop. Oh, that's actually stopping the whole thing. I thought it was just stopping the console. Start. Starting the container. Terminal. This will get around the login. There we go. And that is a root prompt now for that system. Even though it's coming in through the web browser, we can say service status all. Nope, there's no way to get into that machine. I believe it's open SSH server. It's the whole open SSH. So sudo apt update is one of the first things. You don't have to sudo it because you're already super user. So this is apt update. And so this is doing what is much like just getting a newly downloaded image up to date using whatever way you can get into the machine right now, which is this web-provided terminal access. All packages up to date, so that's a really recent version they were giving out there. That's good. And from here, that means we should be able to apt install open SSH. I'm pretty sure it is. And you'll notice this is the before, and you notice there's no SSH in the list of running services. Oh, unable to locate open SSH. Let's see what it is. Apt install open SSH. Oh, open SSH server. You have to be very explicit about it. Yeah, that's fair enough. Where is that? Oh, it's the main. Oh yeah, it's the tab after the QNAP tab. Okay. Don't even have command recall. Apt install open SSH server. Yes to continue. It's a pretty big install to put in OpenSSH. It's creating its own keys. All right. So now it should be possible to get into once you know the default user. So there is a username. Set password. I wish I did this kind of stuff more often, but it's just setting the password for this user so that we can actually get in. Oh, I'll probably be logging into it with an SSH key, but I should be there initially. Interesting. Just thinking through my options. I should be able to see certain things about it from here. Get back to our usable size. I hate how it ties together your different tabs with your different zoom rates in your web. One tab should be one size, another tab be another size. So let's see. Oh yeah. Advanced usually has some interesting stuff in it. Settings. Advanced. Well, we're going to see if by some miraculous chance it was assigned to the same everything on the network as it had before. I doubt it. Oh, look at that. It's just the rejected fingerprint stuff. That's actually not bad. It just means that I need to delete a certain file. The thing at that location has changed its identity. So what I'm trying to do from this location, it's no longer one of the known hosts. So I guess what I'm going to do, okay, I'm going to double check what that icon does. I'm pretty sure it's running it in the SSH from PowerShell context. So I just take a look at it. And yeah, that is definitely PowerShell. So it's amazing it got the same IP as before. It would not even have gotten that far with that challenge request. So what I do is I guess I go into my Internet Explorer. I go into my real home directory for myself, which is this one here. And then I go into .ssh. Doesn't hurt for you to see the names of these files, but we are going to change this one to not known hosts, so that that challenge is no longer going to appear when I try to get in, because the key's changed. And so now I can answer yes to this, where it didn't give me a chance before. And it's asking for Ubuntu's password, which is the username of that Ubuntu account I'm trying to get into. And I do not know it. So I'm going to Control-C out of that. And then I'll close that. And the way to deal with that is to set a password, since on this browser we actually have a logged in session here. So I can do set password Ubuntu, set pwd Ubuntu, yeah, okay, set passwd, that's what I tried before. Yeah, let me just Google it. Linux set password. Just the word passwd and the username, I'm sure. And there we are, logged in. I'll get rid of the prompting for the password using keys as I do. I think all I have to do is put one of the known keys over here, the public key here, and I should be able to get rid of the prompting for the password completely. But because it's a new server and I just set it up, I had to use the username and password. And let's see. You can see it's Ubuntu at Perry. And so, if I do an ls here, we'll think back to the beginning of the video. I had a data directory, and I had a GitHub, and I had a Pi 310. And so I'll just go through some of those real fast, see if I can get this remote server set up to be as similar to the ones now that are local on my machine, so that I can develop locally and then push it out to this location now on the NAS, where I can do many similar things. So there is a GitHub folder, there's a data folder, and there is a Pi 310 folder. And I think I'll put this one second and tackle them in this order, because I'm not going to be my big GitHub folder that I have locally here, that I keep here on this easy to access location. You can see I tried getting to the WSL location there, I couldn't, but I go here, I hit here, and that's a nice canonical in my life way to get to all my repos, and I keep them in one place and I keep them local. And that is not going to happen on this remote location on the network. This is analogous to doing cloud servers. So one of the first things I'll do is just mkdir GitHub. Now if I ls, I've got the GitHub there, and that's taken care of. If I really wanted to set up some repos in there, I could cd into there and clone some repos from my GitHub repository. But again, there's the issue of keys and stuff, and that's not for this video. But what is for this video is now the virtual env. That's an interesting one. So first we see if Python's here. Yeah, see, command not found, no Python at all. So we're going to have to get Python installed even on this, and this is always an interesting process. So LSB release all. Yeah, okay, it's 18.04 like I had thought, and having no Python on here on an 18.04 means you need the old Dead Snakes repo system. So let's see if there's Git on there even. Right? Not even Git, right? So my instructions to myself here are probably very similar to what I would use now to set up this new remote server. These default installations of Ubuntu out of the master repos for these things usually are a version behind the latest that's being distributed. So the world of Ubuntu is up to 20.04, but 18.04 is used for so much of this stuff because it's just so much better, well, stable than the 20.04 stuff. Stuff is really in motion with a snap store and everything. It's not a place I like to be. So this first step of just putting Git on there. See, now we have Git. Software properties common. I remember trying to avoid this one because it didn't seem necessary, but I remember stuff went wrong by skipping it, so I go ahead and put that on there. I believe that's build stuff. That's perhaps the GNU C compiler tool set of tools and utilities. That seems like that might be what that is for when things have to build locally. I'm not 100% sure. But then there's this one which adds the Dead Snakes, all these versions of Python, to your apt systems. When you say apt update and all, this adds to the stuff being checked. In fact, after it's fetching the packages, it does that as part of it. So what I was planning on doing was sudo apt update, because after you do that, the stuff that you're going to update is now expanded over what you had before. You have a larger repo now consisting of a big Python society of, version keepers. But now you can install 3.10. So now Python version 3.10 is on this remote machine. Remote machine being, an arm's reach away, but not the laptop I'm actually physically sitting on, which is the very cool thing about it, because you can completely avoid cloud expenses, cloud costs. You just spend a little bit for some hardware once. It doesn't have to be very powerful, but it's a place to run code. I have found that you still have to separately install venv. And now, as a little reminder, we currently have just the GitHub folder in there, which has nothing in it because, I haven't pulled down repos from GitHub yet. But this next one, if you'll remember, the stuff I'm reproducing, the different directories I'm reproducing, includes a Py 3.10 directory, and this is what creates it. We are using the freshly installed Python 3.10. We're using the virtual env program that's associated with it to create a local virtual env called Py310. Okay, we do another ls, and now you see GitHub and you see Py310. Now, here's the part that's going to be a little bit nuts. I would like to get that data directory because, you don't really want your data getting mixed in with your, code for your program. Sometimes people might think of it as the same thing, but you want your data, like your pictures and your databases and your read-write files, to go one place, your code to go another place that controls the whole thing, and then the dependencies to go a third place. So that's what these three locations are. All the code, all the Python dependency stuff, and then all the data stuff will be there. And so from earlier in my work today, I know that on this network, I know the network address to this this location I'm trying to get. I went through so much to get to this point. And yeah, I know that if I'm on the Windows subsystem for Linux, this command will do it. But this, I believe, might be a very Microsoft Windows subsystem for Linux type thing. So mounting something off of a Samba or CIFS location this simply on just a container like that might not be so simple. So let's try. We'll make dir mount data. That'll take a sudo cd mount. There's the data location, and so now we can connect things to that. That just creates a location where I can map things to. And when it was a Windows subsystem for Linux instance, I was able to do this, which would take one of those universal network paths and just map it right in. But I've tried it elsewhere and gotten errors for this drvfs. It feels very Microsoft and very Windows subsystem for Linuxy. So I don't know if it's going to work here on this, QNAP hosted LXD container. Yep, that's what I thought. Mount unknown file system, drvfs. So I want to mount a UNP location under Linux, and I'll do a Google or two with you, but if I don't get it quick, I'm going to wrap the video up there because that is a potential rabbit hole, I will tell you.